The FIFA World Cup is watched by over 5 billion people. It is the biggest sporting event on the planet, but it almost did not exist. And Jules Rimet, the president of FIFA, wanted to change that. In 1930, he made it happen. The very first World Cup was held in Uruguay, and 13 nations made the trip. Uruguay won it on home soil, beating Argentina 4-2 in the final. A new era had begun. 1934, Italy hosted the second World Cup. Benito Mussolini used it as political propaganda. Italy won. 4 years later in France, they did it again, back-to-back World Cup winners. But then the world went to war. The 1942 and 1946 tournaments were canceled. Football stopped. When the World Cup returned in 1950, it was held in Brazil. The hosts built the Maracanazo, the biggest stadium on earth, and expected to win. They did not. Uruguay beat them in the deciding match in front of 200,000 people. Brazilians call it the Maracanazo, the greatest shock in football history up to that point.
1954. Switzerland hosted, and Hungary arrived as the best team in the world. They had not lost a match in 4 years. But West Germany beat them 3-2 in the final, one of the biggest upsets ever seen. Then came 1958, and everything changed. A 17-year-old boy from Brazil stepped onto the world stage and rewrote what football could look like. His name was Pelé. Brazil won the tournament in Sweden, and Pelé scored 6 goals, including 2 in the final. He was still a teenager. The world had never seen anything like it. Brazil won again in 1962. Then England hosted in 1966 and won their only World Cup title, with Jeff Hurst scoring a hat-trick in the final against West Germany. In 1970, Brazil came back and produced perhaps the greatest team ever assembled. Pelé, Jairzinho, Tostão, Rivellino, they won every single game and lifted the Jules Rimet Trophy for a third time, keeping it forever. That golden era was unlike anything before or since. 1974. West Germany hosted and won, led by the brilliant Franz Beckenbauer. But the real story of that tournament was the Netherlands. Johan Cruyff and his teammates played total football, a system where every player could play every position. They reached the final and lost, but they changed how the world thought about the game forever. Argentina won in 1978 on home soil. Italy claimed their third title in Spain in 1982. Then, in 1986, Diego Maradona put on the greatest individual World Cup performance in history. He scored the Hand of God goal and the goal of the century in the same match against England. Argentina won the tournament. Maradona carried them almost single-handedly. West Germany won in 1990 in a final that most people agree was the worst ever played.
1994. The World Cup came to the United States for the first time. Brazil won their 4th title, beating Italy on penalties after neither team scored in 120 minutes. Roberto Baggio stepped up last for Italy and missed. That image defined the tournament. France hosted in 1998, and the host nation won, inspired by Zinedine Zidane, who headed in 2 goals in the final against Brazil. It remains one of the greatest World Cup finals ever played. 2002 was historic for a different reason. South Korea and Japan co-hosted, the first time the tournament had been held in Asia. Brazil won a 5th star, with Ronaldo scoring twice in the final against Germany. In 2006, Italy won in Germany on penalties after one of the most dramatic finals ever. Zidane, playing his very last professional match, headbutted Marco Materazzi and was sent off. Italy won anyway. South Africa hosted in 2010, the first World Cup ever held on African soil. Spain won it, completing a historic treble of Euro 2008, World Cup 2010, and Euro 2012, the most dominant era any international team has ever had. 2014 in Brazil produced one of the most extraordinary nights in World Cup history. The semifinal between Germany and Brazil. Germany won 7-1 on Brazilian soil in the Mineirão Stadium. It was so shocking that Brazilian fans sat in complete silence. Germany went on to win the title,
their fourth. In 2018, France won in Russia with a brilliant young forward named Kylian Mbappe becoming only the second teenager after Pelé to score in a World Cup final. Croatia reached the final for the first time, going further than anyone expected.
Then came Qatar 2022, the most controversial World Cup ever staged, but also one of the most dramatic. Argentina won their third title. Lionel Messi, after a career spent being asked whether he could do it on the biggest stage, finally answered that question. He scored 7 goals, won the Golden Ball, and lifted the trophy. The greatest player of his generation had his moment. Now for the records. Brazil are the most successful nation in World Cup history with 5 titles. Germany and Italy have 4 each. The all-time top scorer is Miroslav Klose with 16 goals. The youngest player ever to appear was Norman Whiteside of Northern Ireland at 17 years and 41 days in 1982. The biggest ever victory was Hungary beating El Salvador 10-1 in 1982. And the most World Cup appearances? Both Antonio Carbajal of Mexico and Lothar Matthäus of Germany played in 5 separate tournaments. What comes next? The 2026 World Cup will be hosted jointly by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. For the first time ever, 48 teams will compete instead of 32. More nations, more matches, more drama. It will be the biggest World Cup in history. If you want to understand every part of football, from the basics to the biggest moments in the sport's history, subscribe to Football Headquarters. Every football question answered.